The red warning lights flashed across the command deck of the Zarthun Collective's orbital defense station. Admiral Koresh Vorn narrowed his gaze at the massive holographic display before him. The Zarthun had ruled the outer reaches unchallenged for over 2 centuries. Their fleets were unmatched, their technology unrivaled. But now, here in the heart of their dominion, an unknown vessel had just entered their space. And its transponder code sent a chill through every officer in the room. Designation: Terran. Humans? The bridge went silent. Then chaos. The war that shouldn't have been. The Zarthun Collective had dismissed humanity as irrelevant. A species too young, too fragile to be of consequence. The Galactic Council had laughed at the idea of humans being a military threat. Sure, they were stubborn, their technology was adaptive, and they had a knack for surviving impossible odds. But compared to the dominant species of the cosmos, they were nothing. So why was this warship so deep in Zarthun-controlled space? And why was every sensor screaming in terror at its readings? Admiral Vorn's second-in-command, Commander Julek, stepped forward. "Sir, the vessel is..." He hesitated. "It's unlike anything we've ever seen." Vorn clenched his jaw. "Show me." The holographic projection shifted, revealing the silhouette of the enemy warship. It defied every known principle of starship engineering. Where Zarthun warships were sleek and elegant, this thing was brutal. A monstrous black leviathan, its surface covered in layered armor plating that looked less like a ship and more like a fortress carved from a dead star. No exposed weak points. No visible energy sources. Just power. Absolute, terrifying power. A deep hum filled the command deck. Vorn turned to his officers. "Status on its weapon systems?" A young lieutenant swallowed hard. "Sir, the scanners can't identify them. Can't or won't. Their energy signature is unrecognizable. I don't know how, but our scanners are refusing to process the readings." The Admiral's mandibles tightened. That was impossible. No ship could hide its energy output like that. No ship could enter their home territory undetected. No ship should be able to terrify the Zarthun. And yet, here it was. And it was human. First contact, last warning. A deep rumble filled the bridge. It was a sound that bypassed the station sensors entirely, an ancient, guttural warning that every officer felt deep in their chests. The human ship was broadcasting. No words. No language. Just a signal. A slow, deliberate heartbeat. Bottom. 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 Like the footsteps of a predator, echoing across the void. Admiral Vorn's mind raced. He had seen countless battles, conquered dozens of worlds, but he had never felt fear like this. Not of an armada. Not of a superweapon. But of one single warship. One that should not exist. One that should not be here. And then, the holographic display flickered. For a fraction of a second, an image appeared. A human. Clad in black war armor, his face hidden behind a featureless steel visor. No insignia. No rank. No name. But his voice cut through the bridge like a blade. "We are here." And the transmission ended. The first strike. Admiral Vorn reacted instantly. "Activate planetary defenses. I want every warship within range to..." Boom. The entire station lurched, alarms blaring as an invisible force ripped through its outer hull. The human warship hadn't fired a single shot. And yet, the Zarthun defense station was already failing. The crew screamed as systems shorted out, power flickering across the station. What in the void was that? Commander Julek shouted. A science officer checked the readings. Her skin turned pale. "Sir," she whispered, "the ship is rewriting our systems. Our own defenses are turning against us." Vorn's eyes widened. "That's impossible." It was impossible. The Zarthun had the most secure networks in the galaxy. Their technology was decades ahead of anything humanity could possibly possess. And yet, the human warship had already won the battle before a single shot was fired. Vorn gritted his teeth. "If they can corrupt our systems, they can cripple our fleet." Commander Julek's voice trembled. "Sir, they already have." The entire Zarthun war fleet, over 300 warships, had just gone dark. The message of doom. Admiral Vorn's breath was heavy. He turned toward the viewport, gazing at the human warship as it drifted silently through space. The heartbeat signal still echoed. Bottom. Bottom. Then a final transmission arrived. This time the message was clear. Surrender. Or be forgotten. Vorn's claws curled into a fist. The Zarthun Collective had been untouchable for centuries. But now, they were facing something they did not understand. Something they could not stop. Something that should never have existed. Humanity's warship had arrived. and the galaxy would never be the same. Admiral Koresh Vorn had faced war before. He had commanded fleets that burned worlds, crushed entire species, and rewritten history with fire and plasma. But now he was facing extinction. And the terrifying part? It wasn't the humans facing extinction. It was the Zarthun. The first response. "Sir, we have incoming transmissions from the homeworld." Vorn turned, his mandibles clicking in frustration. "Put it through." The main display flashed, revealing the face of High Warlord Xeris Kun, the supreme leader of the Zarthun Collective. His golden exoskeletal armor gleamed, his piercing violet eyes narrowing in fury. Vorn explained this. Vorn didn't hesitate. "An unidentified human warship has entered our space." Xeris Kun hissed, his mandibles flaring. "One warship? That's what has you trembling like a hatchling?" Vorn kept his voice steady. "High Warlord, this is no ordinary ship." The station shook again. A low, distant rumble, not from a weapon impact, but from something far worse. Something inside their systems. The lights flickered. The holographic projection glitched for half a second. Then, the warlord's face distorted. His eyes flickered. His armor darkened. His voice twisted. The human warship was hacking the transmission. And then, just for a moment, the human appeared. The figure in the black armor. The faceless terror. And in a voice that sent shivers through every soul in the room, he whispered, "We are inevitable." Then the screen went black. Silence. Admiral Vorn felt his blood run cold. The Zarthun Collective had always been the apex predator. But now, for the first time, they weren't the hunters. They were the prey. The war begins. The Zarthun warfleet had arrived in force. Over 300 warships. Dreadnoughts, battlecruisers, destroyers, fighter swarms. An armada so powerful that no known species in the galaxy would dare to challenge it. And yet, the human warship did not move. It simply waited. Vorn's instincts screamed at him. This was wrong. This was all wrong. "Give the order," Commander Gilek whispered. "We need to attack first." Vorn hesitated. For the first time in his life he hesitated. Because something inside him whispered a terrifying truth. If we fire first, we die. The Zarthun never hesitated. They conquered. They ruled. They crushed. And yet, Vorn hesitated. The human weapon activates. Aboard the Zarthun flagship, Captain Rylith Zarin was furious. "We outnumber them 300 to 1. He snarled. "What are we waiting for?" But then the human warship moved. Not by thrust. Not by warp drive. Not by any means that should have been possible. It blinked. It was one place, then suddenly another. Across the void, the warship's massive frame blurred, shifting into existence directly inside the Zarthun formation. It had just broken the laws of physics. And then, the first ship died. The Zarthun collapse. No visible weapons. No massive energy buildup. No warning. The lead Zarthun dreadnought, a vessel capable of glassing entire planets, simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there. The next, it was gone. No explosion. No debris. Emptiness. Vorn's heart pounded. "We don't understand this," he whispered. "We don't understand this at all." Captain Zarin's voice roared through the fleet-wide comms. "All ships open fire. Humanity's true power." The Zarthun warfleet unleashed everything. Tachyon lances, plasma batteries, quantum missiles. A storm of death tore through space, aimed directly at the human warship. And then, the impossible happened again. Every shot vanished. Not absorbed. Not deflected. Simply ceased to exist. Like the warship had rewritten the very laws of reality. And then, the warfleet began to die. One by one, the Zarthun warships simply disappeared. No wreckage. No explosions. Just nothing. Like they had never been there at all. And the human warship? Untouched. Unstoppable. Unknowable. Admiral Vorn's mandibles trembled. They had never been at war with humans. They had been at war with something else entirely. Something far worse. Something that should not exist. And then, across every comm channel, across every fleet, the human's voice echoed one last time. "Surrender. While you still can." And Admiral Vorn? For the first time in his life, he surrendered. Admiral Vorn should have been dead. His war fleet, 300 ships strong, had been reduced to nothing. No wreckage. No escape pods. Just emptiness. And now he stood alone on his crippled command bridge, staring at the impossible. The human warship remained. Silent. Unmoving. Unstoppable. And then, a single message appeared on his hollow interface. We warned you. Vorn swallowed hard. This was no ordinary enemy. This was something else. Something the galaxy wasn't ready for. The High Warlord's last stand. Back on Zarthun Prime, High Warlord Xeris-Kun had seen enough. The humans had humiliated them. Their warships had vanished like ghosts. Their weapons had defied physics. And yet, the High Warlord refused to believe in defeat. This is a trick, he growled, his violet eyes burning. His advisors flinched but said nothing. Summon the Oblivion Armada, Xeris-Kun commanded. The room fell silent. The Oblivion Armada. A force so devastating that it had never been deployed in the history of the Zarthun Collective. Not against rebellions. Not against planetary uprisings. Because when it was sent, there was no enemy left to fight afterward. And now, it would burn humanity out of existence. Or so they thought. The Ghost Fleet. Hours later, the Oblivion Armada, 1,000 warships strong, had gathered in orbit around Zarthun Prime. At its center, the Doombringer, the largest war dreadnought ever constructed. Admiral Vorn, prisoner of the High Warlord, stood on the command deck, shackled but watching. They still didn't understand. They thought they could fight this. They thought numbers mattered. But then, the human warship arrived. Alone. Unharmed. And then one by one, the lights on the Zarthun ships flickered. Their engines sputtered. Their weapons shut down. Admiral Vorn knew it before anyone else did. They had already lost. Then the holocom activated. A single human figure appeared. Faceless. Unreadable. And in a calm, measured tone he said, "This is your final warning." High Warlord Xeris-Kun snarled. "You think your tricks will frighten us? We are the Zarthun. We." Then he stopped. His eyes widened in horror. Because behind the human warship, more ships appeared. 1, 10, 50, 100. No, not ships. Shadows. Ghosts. Vorn's breath caught in his throat. It wasn't just one warship anymore. It was an entire fleet. A phantom armada that hadn't been detected. No energy signatures. No signals. No warning. And then, the Zarthun ships began disappearing. One by one. Not destroyed. Not disabled. Simply erased. Like they had never existed. And the humans? Untouched. Unstoppable. Unknowable. The High Warlord fell to his knees. Admiral Vorn closed his eyes. And the human's voice came one last time. "This war is over." High Warlord Xeris-Kun had never knelt before. Not to kings. Not to gods. Yet now, he knelt. His empire, the mighty Zarthun Collective, had been unrivaled for centuries. And in a single day it had ceased to exist. Not by war. Not by destruction. But by something far worse. Something beyond comprehension. The vanishing. The Oblivion Armada, 1,000 of the deadliest warships in the known galaxy, was simply gone. Not a single explosion. Not a single trace. Emptiness. And now, as Xeris-Kun looked upon his homeworld, he realized something even worse. The entire planet was dark. Zarthun Prime, once a beacon of power, a world of towering spires and endless lights, was now nothing but a lifeless shadow. No communications. No energy signatures. No life. It was still there physically. But it was hollow. As if every living thing had been erased from existence. And yet, the human war fleet remained. Watching. Waiting. They had given a warning. And now they had proven it was not a bluff. The final choice. Admiral Vorn turned to the lone human commander standing before them. A figure in dark, featureless armor. They had no name. No rank. No visible weapons. Yet they had crushed an empire without lifting a finger. Vorn swallowed hard. What are you?" The human's voice was calm. Unshaken. Absolute. "We are humanity." Xeris-Kun clenched his fists. You erased my world. You stole my people." The human tilted their head. "No." Xeris-Kun froze. The human continued. "We didn't erase anything. We didn't kill anyone." "Lies?" The High Warlord spat. The human stepped forward, their voice unnervingly even. "They are still alive. Just somewhere else." Vorn's blood turned to ice. They hadn't destroyed the Zarthun. They had removed them. Displaced them outside reality. A punishment far worse than death. A fate that could not be reversed. And now, the High Warlord was the last of his kind. A deal with the devil. Xeris-Kun trembled. The mighty Zarthun war machine was gone. His armies, erased. His people, vanished. And the humans? Still standing. Still watching. Waiting for him to speak. His mandibles quivered. What do you want?" The human's voice was soft. Final. Surrender. Ziraskun's breath hitched. Surrender? To a species they had mocked? Belittled? Undid? But what choice was left? He had seen what happened to those who defied them, and he had no desire to find out what came after. Slowly, painfully, he lowered his head. I surrender. Silence. Then, the human nodded. Good. And then, the fleet vanished. No bright flashes. No warp distortions. Just gone. And with them, the last remnants of Zarthun resistance. The war that had barely begun was over, and humanity had won, without firing a single shot. Epilogue, the new reality. Months later, across the galaxy, a whisper spread. A truth so terrifying that no empire dared to speak of it. Humanity was untouchable, unstoppable. A force that did not conquer, did not invade, did not destroy. They simply erased. And so, in every war council, in every empire, one rule was written in blood and steel. Do not provoke the humans, or risk disappearing forever. The end. Rocket.